Anyway, so I just wanted to give this a nice stir. Look, it's looking real pretty. And I'm gonna just tell you it tasted real pretty too, if that doesn't make sense, but you know what I meant. Hey friends, it is Lauren the Soap Witch, and it is time for another edition of Witch's Kitchen. So in this one I am making a beef stew, and you can see I'm not starting in the middle of it, but I've already added the seasoning and the flour to my beef because I forgot to start filming before I added that stuff in. But I wasn't going to miss this opportunity to get another good recipe on here, so this is where we're starting. So I added my seasonings. I have added a link in the description so you can see the entire recipe, all of the instructions and the seasonings to know what I included, because this is like a week later and I don't remember the seasonings, but there are seasonings, tasty ones, okay? And then there's flour. So we're just coating the meat in the flour at this point, and now it is pretty nicely coated at this point. So after that, the next step was to add olive oil to my pan and heat it up. So here I am with my half tablespoon, I'm pretty sure it's a half tablespoon, and my olive oil. And so the reason it looks like I'm putting an excessive amount of spoons in here is because it's a half tablespoon and not a whole tablespoon. And so, you know, obviously it looks like I'm putting double the amount, but I promise I'm not. So anywho, I'm just adding that into the pan, and then I'm going to warm it to the appropriate temperature so that I can start adding my meat. And see, here is when I remember to show you the container of what I was using. Olive oil. There we go. All right. So the pan is nicely heated, and the instructions said to add about half of your meat, because you don't want to overcrowd the pan. Now, I didn't do too much roguish behavior because y'all know my reputation, okay? I didn't do too much roguish behavior in this recipe. I think I put a little bit of extra seasoning. Of course, I had a little bit of extra meat, like maybe around a pound or so more than the recipe called for, because I didn't see a reason to reserve that meat for later, and I got a lot of big hungry mouths to feed. Okay, so you brown the meat on one side, and then it's like 2 minutes or something, and then you flip it over to the other side to brown the meat on that other side. And then once the meat has been properly browned on both sides, you just scoop it out the pan. I think I used, no, I didn't, never mind. I was going to say a slotted spoon, but that's clearly not a slotted spoon. Okay, I scooped it out into the crock pot, and then in goes the second half of the meat. It's kind of clumped together probably because of that flour. And so I'm just taking my spoon there and just kind of breaking that apart so the meat will sort of just sit more evenly into the pan. And yeah, that's why. So then going in to turn this over at the halfway mark like I did the first half, just to make sure I do everything the same way. And then after I get all that flipped over and let it sit for its allotted time, I'm going to scoop that in the crock pot as well. So once I get it all in the crock pot, it is going to be time to show it off, okay? And then add some butter to my pan. Once I get all the paper off, I don't know why this was such a struggle, but you know that's life. It be lifing, even when you're just trying to cook a simple recipe. Okay, so dump that butter in there, let it melt, and then I added my onions. Again, it says how much you're supposed to use and dice them up, but I didn't feel like doing all that work, so I bought already diced up onions. And so you have to stir these in the pan. It tells you how long. I do not have the recipe on me right now, but you just have to stir them around, I don't know, it's like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I'm probably lying. Anyway, do whatever the recipe says that I put in the description. Okay, so I'm just stirring these around until they have that look, a little bit brown. That's kind of how you wanted them. And then after you're done stirring them around in the pan, you can go in with some cloves of garlic. Now y'all know I don't do cloves of garlic, again, laziness. And so I usually just do this garlic paste. It's like a 1-to-1 ratio, like 1 teaspoon equals 1 clove or something like that. So I'm just going ahead and measuring that out, dumping it in the pan. And oh yeah, I think it was 4 cloves. Was that right? Whatever the higher amount of the recipes say, I always go with the higher amount because I'm a fan of garlic. I like my things garlicky, but I think it gave a range if I wasn't mistaken. So after I get my garlic paste in there, I just kind of took the spoon and sort of smashed it around the pan just to make sure it got incorporated in there with the onions. You don't cook the garlic for as long as you do the onions, so this little phase here didn't take as long as the cooking and stirring of the onions. So once I finally just kind of got that where it was going, the next step after this was to add some red wine. It gave some recommendations, but I didn't use those. I got the cheap red cooking wine from the store, okay, and I'm measuring that out. I think it was a cup, but I had a half a cup there, so I did it twice. So and this is for deglazing the pan. That's what they had said in the instructions anyway, so follow the instructions. Look at me doing that. So I'm pouring that in there, and then you stir this and you scrape the bottom of the pan to loosen up the juicy bits at the bottom and just get this nice cohesive mixture. And they said this is supposed to make the stew just a little bit more scrumptious. They didn't use those exact words on the recipe, but that's what they meant. So now that I've pretty much gotten it all scraped down and deglazed the pan, I'm just going to dump all that in the crock pot, get that all nicely poured in, and look at this, nice and pretty. Okay, so once I get all that in there, my next step was carrots. So it had requested a certain amount of carrots, and I felt like this bag was close enough. I just wanted a tiny bit, Rogue, just a tiny bit. And then mouth, we've been doing so good. Yukon Gold potatoes, I think is what it said. I prefer the golden tomatoes anyway because they have a thinner skin and a smoother skin, and so I just wash them pretty thoroughly and never really take the skin off or cut the skin off. And so it said to cut them in halves or quarters, but half seemed too big, so I dumped those in the crock pot. I measured out my beef broth to pour that in the crock pot, and then once I got that all nicely poured in there, it was time for, I should just wait, beef bouillon cubes. I thought it was interesting that you needed broth and bouillon cubes, but whatever, following the directions. I was trying to behave, y'all. Y'all know I'm bad. Worcestershire sauce, okay, goes in next. Let me tell you how many years it took me to learn how to pronounce that. Anywho, so just pouring the allotted amount in there. Some of these ingredients I did like a smidge extra just to make up for the fact that I did have an extra pound of meat in there, Anyway, so the next is a tomato paste. What I can't stand is recipes never call for the whole can, and I never have enough recipes, and so I swear I use what little bit I use in a recipe that calls for it, and then the rest of it goes to waste. I don't know, maybe I should have made some pasta. That's off topic. Bay leaves are next, and so I did 2 bay leaves and put those, I just try to get them in the water, or not water, broth as best as I could. I used dried rosemary, and so I just looked up the good conversion for dried rosemary versus fresh, and then I let that cook for, I did it say 8 hours? I think it said 8 hours, but I think I ended up cooking it for 9 because I went to the Y and worked out. Okay, so now that it's all pretty much done cooking, I'm just going in and taking out the bay leaves because the recipe says so again, and was trying not to burn the crap out of my finger while I did so. I probably should have used a fork or spoon, but hindsight. Anyway, so I just wanted to give this a nice stir. Look, it's looking real pretty, and I'm gonna just tell you it tasted real pretty too, if that doesn't make sense, but you know what I meant. Anywho, so just going in and just giving that a nice stir, getting everything to be a nice cohesive mixture. So to thicken it up, you do a mixture of water and cornstarch, and you stir that all together so it's, because it'll just clump up on you in a second. So I'm pretty sure that's why you mix it with the water first and then dump it in. So now that I've got that a nice cohesive mixture, I just pour that on into the whole entire thing, and then I'm going to also give that a nice stir after adding that in, because I do like mine to have a little thickness about it, I don't know why. It just, I'm a texture person, I guess, and so that's what I got. So they said adding this cold butter at the end just gave it a nice velvety finish or whatever they said in the recipe. It sounded something like that. Some flowery words that just meant it was supposed to be add to the extra goodness of it. Okay, that was how I understood it. So I just went ahead and gave that a nice little start. And I just felt like I needed cornbread to go with it. So you could pause that if you want on the recipe. It's just the one on the side of the Clover Valley yellow cornmeal bag. I don't know why, but that's become my favorite recipe for cornbread. So I'm just taking all the ingredients and following the recipe on the side of the bag, mixing it all together for the goodness sake. Did you hear that? You didn't hear it. There was no ringing in the background. Anyway, so my voiceovers always just be a struggle. Okay, so adding these last bits of ingredients in here, and finally, I don't know, I think it's just milk were the last two, and like egg or something. And so get those in there, and I'm ready to mix it all up. Why that camera angle is terrible. It doesn't matter. All right, getting the egg in there. I'm pretty sure that's the last ingredient, and then I'm gonna give that a night. Oh, canola oil. I lied. Canola oil. I'm pretty sure that is the last ingredient. And I don't think it has to be canola, just vegetable oil, but I had canola, so that's what I use. You do you, friends. Use what you want. So I'm going to give that a nice stir and then spray the pan because I don't want it sticking. Nobody wants that. And then I'm going to just take the mixture and unceremoniously dump it right in there. Scoop it all in until it's all completely in the container, my baking container, and then I'm gonna stick that in the oven. It's like 20 minutes or something. That sounds right. And then pull it out. It's a nice golden brown and pretty and perfect. So yeah, I really enjoyed this recipe, guys. This was actually a fabulous and delicious one. The whole entire family enjoyed it, and I don't have a singular complaint. Look at it, it looks beautiful. Okay, so anyway, I hope you like what you saw and this was fun and helpful for you. If you try the recipe, please let me know. If you did like what you saw, please consider subscribing to my channel and clicking the notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads, and give this one a like. All right, I'll see you in the next one, friends.